But the fees hurt sellers and buyers.
There is no platform which doesn't charge seller fees.
There's one now, the Collector Alliance.
Welcome to the Collector Alliance.
Jared Cope, Star Wars Tracker. What's going on, man?
Yeah, not too much. Not too much. Good to be on.
First off, I have the Star Wars Tracker. I've used it a ton. And it's actually helped me negotiate a lot of deals I buy, sell, and trade quite a bit, as you know. And I've been in circumstances where the seller was kind of unfamiliar with the market, and I pull up the app and I say, and hey, we've got the Star Wars Tracker here. Let's be unbiased. Let's look at the Star Wars Tracker and let's use comps for purchases. So that's actually helped me solidify deals. It's helped me get good deals. And oftentimes people might be a little bit, out of their element, really, in, the pricing. And it really helps us sit down and analyze things in a way that you wouldn't be able to without it. It would just be kind of a free for all. So Jared, in your words, what is the Star Wars Tracker?
Yeah, all right. So as succinctly as I can say, Star Wars Tracker is a digital price guide for vintage Star Wars items, and it's software that allows you to track your own collection in portfolios. So that's in a nutshell, but there's quite a bit more to it.
Absolutely. So when I tell people about the Star Wars Tracker, I get people asking me for prices all the time. What's this valued at? What's this worth? And I say, hey man, do you have the Star Wars Tracker, by the way? It's really easy to use. It's great tool for evaluating your collection. But there's also a section for your own portfolio. Can you dive into that a little bit?
Yeah. So the app started first with me building price guides. But then as I was getting into that, I sort of realized that if you could input your own collection, then there's a real opportunity here where I can marry up your collection with the price guide data. And so at the click of a button, you can get like a pretty good rough idea of what your collection's worth based on the actual sales data in the price guides. And so of course you can do this with paper and Excel and keep track of your own prices, but to be honest, that takes so much time and effort to get like a good idea of the market and to keep doing it week in, week out. So I've built this service which basically does that for you, and like I was saying, click of a button, you'll get like a mark-to-market valuation of your stuff right there.
So you basically, and you can see it go up and down and fluctuate with the market, right?
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I mean, for the most part, for the last 10 years, like the market has pretty much like gone like that. But there are sort of cycles within that where prices are going up and down. So as part of being a subscriber, each weekend you'll get an email which contains your valuation for that week. And the email also contains like a 6-month rolling value of what the collection was worth. So you can actually see a bit of a trend on, if it went down for a period or if it's, worth more today than it was 3 months ago. So it's quite handy and fun to see that kind of trend.
So, some individuals say, well, this is a hobby, but for me, it's only a hobby. It's not about values, yada, yada, yada. But for me personally, knowing the value of items that I've hunted for, that I've searched for, that I've paid money for, I want to know that they're still as valuable as what I paid for them, if not more. And oftentimes we're seeing exactly that trajectory is going up. This benefits so many people, not only on the valuations, but the portfolio benefits people as well for insurance purposes. Oftentimes individuals will have a large collection and they really have no idea what it's worth. Maybe it's worth 10 grand, maybe it's worth 100, maybe it's worth $1 million. They just don't know it. So it's a fantastic tool for anybody to keep track of their collection for insurance purposes, or if they're, some people buy collectibles for investment, right? It's just the way it is, and some people just like it as a hobby. It doesn't make a difference to them. But regardless, if they're just in it for the hobby sake, and let's say a godforsaken situation happens, their home burns down and their entire collection is gone. Well, my gosh, if they have that tool, that portfolio, they have comps, they have their collection built in with photos. You can upload your own photos.
Yeah.
And it's right there. It's a beautiful tool. And I recommend to all collectors, know what your item is worth, know what it is, and use the Star Wars tracker. And so this is specifically designed for the Star Wars collectibles. You have ships, coins, vintage figures, mint on card figures, things of that nature.
Yeah. So it's kind of segregated into, I think it's almost a dozen different price guides. So let's see how many I can remember. So you got loose figures, you got MOC, like carded figures, then the Parallel Force coins, which there's a bit of a story to that. I might come to that if we've got some time. And then the vehicles, play sets, the 12-inch figures, the micro line has its own price guide. And, well, there's more, which I can't name off the top of my head, but they're all individually in their own price guides. So you can go there, pick the items, and then just really drill down into the pricing how you want. You can get averages and aggregates of prices over 6 months, a year, the last month. Choose just a subset of special licensees. If you're looking for, say, a Canada carded figure, you can just drill down into that data. So it's very flexible how you want to work and do your research on pricing.
So when you download the app, and I'm looking at a Princess Leia Organa, you have a band that starts at 10%, goes all the way up to 100%. Explain the band.
Yeah, so I introduced these bands. So I call them, they're known as percentile bands, and they complement the aggregate statistics of maximum, average, and minimum that we all know quite well. But percentile bands, what they do, they give you a bit more insight into the data. And essentially, just to keep it simple, if you have like 100 price points for that Princess Leia, the 10 percentile band will be, and those 100 points you lined up from minimum price up to maximum price, so they're all in order. That 10% band would say, look, the most you'll pay for the first 10% of the prices is that amount. So it kind of like gives you a sense of, for a beta figure, that's basically the most you'd want to pay, because the market has sort of said, that's what prices were being paid for that. If you go up to, say, like the 80 percentile band, you've now got 80 prices to look at. And what that band is saying is that the most you'll pay for those 80 prices is that amount on the band. So basically, you can kind of translate that to, if you think you've got a really mint figure that's better than 8 out of 10 examples, then you might reasonably say, look, I could expect to pay or to get the price on the 80 percentile band for that. And how it works a little bit differently and better than the average, I think, is that the percentile bands are immune to the outlier prices. So the average, if you remember your mathematics, is like you add up all the numbers and then divide by all the numbers, and then you've got this point in the middle of what the number is, which is a fictitious number, actually. That number may have actually never existed in the market. It's just made up. It's just computed there. But that mean average is influenced by like a really high priced outlier. Say that someone might have just been drunk or had a crazy day and paid $1,000 for that layer. That's going to skew the mean price up, actually. So it's not actually reflective of what like an average figure might be worth. But instead, if you go to the 50 percentile band, that outlier price doesn't influence that 50% price.
Gotcha. That's great food for thought. I love how you can dive in and drill down into each little sale You can also click on Cardbacks. Like, let's say if you're looking at Cardbacks, you see all the variations of Cardbacks. So not only do you have market updates, your portfolio, but you have an array of information at people's fingertips, where they can look at hey, you know, what a lot of people misunderstand a 12A, 12B, 12C, right? They don't know how to delineate between the three. So this is great, where you can actually pull up the physical mock, go to the source, and distinguish, hey, what do I have, a 12A, 12B, or 12C? So it's literally in your pocket in an app, and your subscription base, what is it, $7 a month right now, $10 a month right now?
There's 4 different price tiers, from if you want to pay monthly, quarterly, each half year, and yearly. So it ranges from $8 a month up to, I think it's $45 for a year now. So the $45 a year is obviously the best value, but everyone's different. Like they might want to just collect for a few months, so the monthly is best for them. If some people are in it for the long haul, so they pay yearly. It's quite flexible how you want to approach it.
Well, I became a fan when I downloaded it. You know, I was when I first downloaded it, I didn't know who you were. I checked it out and I said, man, I really like this. This is like the NASDAQ, you know, stock chart for Star Wars. How cool is that? You know, and I love the functionality of it. It's very easy to use. And when I was sold when I actually, you know, I mentioned earlier, I really had a real situation. There was a local collection. He was a realtor, and he wanted an exorbitant amount of funds for his collection. It was a very nice collection. And I said, hey man, honestly, I think we're at a difference here because of the market, right? So you're in real estate. What do? How do you find values of homes? Well, I look at comps, and I said, I've got this Star Wars tracker here, and this has comps. We can pull that data and do the same exact thing, and we'll work with the comps, and we'll work on a percentage, yada yada. Well, anyway, that helped transpire a deal. I don't think the deal would have happened without the app, because he saw the data. He understood that the data is extrapolated from multiple different sources, right? Not just one: auction houses, eBay, various sites, et cetera, et cetera. So just him seeing it, you know, right here, it's not just word of mouth. It's not just some guy trying to buy his collection at the lowest value possible, right?
Yeah.
But we were able to make that deal happen because of the app. So for me, I'm sold for life because of that.
No, that's the story I want to hear from everyone. Like, you know, it actually is useful in the field. And I mean, it was really important to me. So let me back up and I'll tell you a little bit of a story of how this all came about. So the tracker's almost been going for 10 years now, actually. It was like 2013 when I first started to write a line of code for this. And what prompted me to do this was 2012 into 2013, I got back into collecting, and I always had this goal back in the 90s to finish a carded set of figures, like the 96 figures. And I always got like, you know, 80 or so there, and like I was always missing about a dozen. And so in 2012, 2013, I finished them off. And then I thought, well, where do I go next with the collecting? And then I just had this really lofty goal to try and get a set of the Power of the Force coins, because I think they look great on display. I didn't know I had a lot about them. I knew there were some really rare ones, and there was just some stuff that I'd never seen before. So it just breathed some life back into collecting for me. Like it was exciting again. So I started off just collecting like the Category 1 coins, which you get on the Cardbacks, you know, the last 17 coins. But the more I got into it and the more I realized, you know, I need to get this one and this one and this one next, the more I realized there was just, the sales were so infrequent that it was really difficult to look up past sold prices for some of the rarer coins. Mainly because at the time, Facebook groups hadn't kicked off yet. Most of the sales were on eBay, sometimes on the forums. but you've always got this price horizon on eBay where you can't see beyond that 90 days. So all the sales that have happened before then, they're just gone. You've lost all that. So I started to create a database tracking the prices of these coins. And one of the prompts to do that was I still remember very clearly, I saw a Tuscan Raider coin for sale on eBay, and it sold for $700, you know, just like that. Like it just sold. I thought, who's paying $700 for one of these coins? I'd never seen it before, but I've since come to realize and understand that that's a rare category 4 or category 5 coin. So it dawned on me, look, I need to be creating a database to track these so I can look back in time and know that, you know, if a Tuscan Raider comes up again, that 700 is a good comp for that coin. If I happen to get it for 400, then I've got a great deal. If it comes up for 1200, then I'm likely to pass on it. So the very first price guide in Star Wars Tracker was for the Power of the Force coins, which you can kind of see in the background here. I've got them framed up. So the tracker was born out of my own real world use case to actually have quality, reliable pricing data that I knew was right and correct that I could base my collecting around. And then it just obviously grew from there into the loose figures, the carded figures, and all that it is today.
Man, I love that. I love that you dove into it as a collector, and you created your own tool to help you collect, right? And you said, hey, data is power. Data is power. That's all the power. Otherwise, you wouldn't understand why you would pay $700 or even $500 for the Tuscan Raider coin, right? But now that you have the data and the comps and you see what people are paying for these particular items, you now know, man, if I got that for $500, that's a great deal, right?
Yeah.
I just saw one sell instantly for $700. And there's we have this thing in all collectibles, and we call it price bashing, right? For the lack of better terms, where people say, oh, that's way too high, and it's kind of they're airing their opinion. They're just kind of throwing it out there. And now with data, well, let's just look at the data. Is that price high? Is that price low? Is that price, accurate? I think that even with a steady increase in valuation, I see the tracker as a way to help stabilize the Star Wars market as well. If somebody were to say, own a collection for the past 40 years, and there's a lot of people that bought Star Wars, held on to it like it was stock, and they viewed it, they have zero intrinsic value, zero emotional value to it. They said, I'm gonna buy. And I've come across a lot of these collectors or owners of the items where they're starting to sell the items now due to the fact that the market is high and the Star Wars is X amount of years old, and they have no idea the value. They literally have no idea what the value is of their collection. So the best thing for them is to be aware, first and foremost, of the Star Wars Tracker, to download it and to start looking through it and verifying, oh, okay, now I know what my collection is actually worth. So this can help both a novice or somebody who's just unloading, or sellers or buyers alike. It helps eliminate that argument of kind of that superficial, ambiguous valuation on items, right? With data, there is no more argument.
Well, everyone's got their own perspective on what the market is because that's been their experience. And that was me too. Like, I'd base my pricing on, toy shows I went to in the 90s and then what I've seen on eBay. And just a quick side note about eBay is you don't actually get to see everything on eBay. There's different global sites. So unless you're logged in with a specific account that I think it's almost even linked to the shipping address, you won't actually see some listings. So everyone's view of what they think the market is very siloed. But I think one of the greatest strengths of the tracker is, like, you can just get a very unbiased view of more data than you probably are aware of in your normal routine and what you get exposed to. And you can see the trends and the statistics from just a data point of view, and then kind of build your own opinion on top of that, coupled with what you've seen yourself, what you've seen that perhaps the tracker hasn't captured. That's totally fine as well. But I think like it's a fantastic starting point to base your view of the market on, and then go from there. And even if you're a seasoned collector that's still in the hobby, things can change in a matter of months. Like, you know, some figure will be flavor of the month and it'll be shoot up and double the price, and this will have happened without you even really being aware of it.
100%, man. I view this, and we've seen that. I saw that with the pop-up R2. It was,
Right.
originally about $350, and then it popped up to almost double that standard selling price. It's since dipped a bit, maybe 500, 600, but I've seen that happen where one particular item, just this pop culture thing happens, this group thing happens, this mob mentality where everybody drives this price up of a particular item, and it's great to be aware of that. And this particular tool helps you become aware of that. So for me, Jared, I love this tool. I praise you for it. I think that it benefits everybody who's, of course, a Star Wars collector specifically. And it's super easy to use, super inexpensive. It's great for people to support this. The more they support it, the better, the better and more time you can, the better you make it, and the more time you can put into it.
Yep.
We should be very supportive of tools like this. I love the fact that, most everybody in the community, grading companies, Star Wars Tracker, TCA, all these companies that kind of have come out of the woodwork, they're all collectors first and foremost, and they saw a service that has been needed, and they say, my goodness, man, this is a service that's needed, and it takes a lot of work, a lot of energy, a lot of effort, but most of all, it takes passion. If you hadn't been passionate about collecting or compiling data, which I think is a combo of both, for you, it wouldn't exist. If you weren't passionate about Star Wars, why would you spend your time doing this, right? So your passion sparked this, and I think it's a blessing, and I love the fact that it exists, and I think it's a blessing for the entire community to have this at the reach of their hand, man. It's benefited me many times, and that's how our relationship began. I was like pretty blown away from day one. So
yeah, well, that's probably the best feedback I can ever hear. So yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.
I'm a very pragmatic guy. I'm very honest about things, and if it was something that I was just like, well, okay, whatever, that's kind of throwaway, then I would say that. But for me, the proof is in the pudding. It has benefited me on numerous occasions. And you got to kind of look at this, like, if it has benefited me, I should benefit the company back by being a subscriber to it. And just one of those deals alone, I could probably be a member for, the next few hundred years, and how much money that saved me.
Yeah, I mean, you can totally dress it up like that. Like, if you pay your subscription, some people see, well, I can go and look up prices myself. But it's just a convenience of being able to look up something very quickly. The stats are done for you. I mean, we haven't even touched on, like, there's a lot of pre-screening of what actually becomes eligible to be a data point in the tracker. So all the reproduction listing stuff is already thrown out by the time it gets in here. Like, you don't have to sift through that yourself. And then, the pictures are there to go and see exactly what the condition was. Portfolio side, I've had so many people get in touch to say, look, this has saved me from buying doubles and triples of stuff at toy fairs because I couldn't see what I actually had in my collection, but it was on Star Wars Tracker. I could see I already had that, so I didn't buy it twice, kind of thing. I think very quickly the subscription cost is saved from mistakes in either selling too low or buying too high, or repeat buying because you've already got it in your collection and just weren't aware of it. Um, so yeah,
Which happens.
yeah, it does. It does. So yeah, I mean, for what you get, I think it's very reasonably priced. Yeah.
I agree, man. Well, anything else that you want to add? Anything upcoming with the app? Anything that you want to share before we take off here?
Nothing in particular comes to mind. I mean, it's been very stable and fairly polished for a few years now. I always get requests to add in, some stuff, very niche stuff that hardly ever comes up. So I'm looking at ways to sort of improve to get that last 1% of collectors and keep them happy. But no, at this stage of the game, it's more about just keeping it alive and keeping that track history of data there for everyone. And there's almost 10 years of a really rich data set for vintage Star Wars collectors, which is just not available anywhere else. And it's the way you can navigate and slice it up and drill down and find what you want is really second to none.
I agree, man. I appreciate it and appreciate you very much. Appreciate the tracker very much. Anybody can go to www.starwarstracker.com to download the app and subscribe and support to the community and the entrepreneurs that are part of the community. Love it.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jared.
Okay. Chat later.
Bye-bye.